Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my 10-acre hobby farm. Basically, I think the last thing I ever said to you guys about it was that we were putting it up for sale when I was installing that culvert there at the entrance of my property. So it's been up for sale for about the last 3-4 months, roughly, whatever it is, since February. And today we're supposed to be closing on it. Bottom line is that, there's a few things that basically went into this decision. I guess 3 different factors. The first one being that we were offered jobs in a town about an hour east of us, and then also in a town about a half hour north of us. And I say we, my wife and I are both in the same career, same job field, and so we had to obviously go to the same place. And so what we decided to do was ultimately go to the town about an hour east of us, which means that we're either going to commute an hour from the property where we put a home someday, or we would just have a vacant piece of property we hang on to and leave and move to that town, or we sell the property and move to that town. And so what we ultimately decided, and then let me get to the other factors, I guess. The second factor is that land prices around this area have pretty much tripled even in the last year. And one of the things that made my property worth so much money was that we paid for a well to be drilled over a year ago, and we finally just got it drilled in May. So wells are a year out from being drilled in this area. And so what that pretty much means is that people are desperate to buy properties with water already on them, especially people that are moving. We've got all kinds of people moving from out of state, and then also from the Phoenix area. So people are moving up to my area from the Phoenix area, and they're also moving probably largely from California, but other states as well. I've heard people moving from Texas, Utah, and other places here to kind of the northeastern Arizona area. And so that has driven the need for a property with water on it and just property prices in general. So basically, we're closing today and we're selling it for 3 times what we paid for it. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, but over a year it has tripled in price, and we're making a pretty dang good profit off of it. And so then the third factor pretty much comes down to that I was always a little bit weary of the property. When we first bought it, we're like, well, we've got all this money that we've got saved up. Probably might as well make an investment somehow. Property value is never going to go down. And so we might as well purchase some property and make it something I could see myself living on. And at the bare minimum, we sell it for no loss in the future. And that's kind of what we did. Of course, I really did want this to be my good-sized little hobby farm, 10-acre hobby farm. I planned on building a house there, putting a fence around it, having animals, a small orchard garden, things like that. Two things I was never really big on. Well, 3 things I was never really big on with that property. So this is like 3 things in part of my third category. Number 1 being that it was like a 15-ish minute commute into town just to get from my place to the town. It was like a 7 miles out of town property. And so anytime we go into town, it'd take like 20 minutes, which I think is kind of a pain in the neck. And I'm not a fan of very long commutes as it is. So that's one thing. The other thing was that every time I dug more than about 6 to 8 inches into the dirt, I was having to use a jackhammer. So all my 2.5 to 3 foot post holes were dug 1 to 2 feet with a jackhammer, and I got really sick of that really quick. I started building the fence. I think I got 2 corners up and I don't know, maybe 40 feet of fence and then some T-posts. Anyway, it was going to take forever. It would take me about an hour and a half per post hole to dig. And I got real sick of that too. And the biggest thing was just being off grid. It was an off-grid property. There was no power to the line, and being off-grid off the water or sewer is not really that big of a deal. In fact, I prefer to have a well. But not having power being connected to electricity to me is kind of a no-go. It's kind of a bad situation, and it just wasn't really what I wanted. I'd rather be tied into the grid myself. So that was kind of a big problem with it. So that's pretty much the third factor that fed into us deciding to sell this. I would probably say the greatest just being that it was worth over 3 times what we paid for it. So yes, we closed today. I went and signed the paperwork. I guess the only thing that can happen now is the buyers don't show up to sign their portion of the paperwork at the title company. but I'm not really expecting that to happen. So essentially, it's sold, basically. And I don't own property anymore, which I think is kind of a bummer, but that's okay because we are looking at 2.2 acres, 2.2 acres, just outside of the town that we are moving to well, it's July 1st. And hopefully maybe going to build a house there someday if we purchase it. We're thinking of purchasing it. We've got some utility things to verify, but there's power to it. Supposedly there's water to it. We just have to figure out whether or not the water going to it is true, and if there's sewer to it. But 2.2 acres is a little smaller than I'd want to go. 5 was kind of the smallest I wanted to be at, but that's okay. I've had a little bit of a mind shift with it. I figured I could probably do like an acre of the house, a barn, a shop, a yard, and a garden, and a small orchard, and then like a 1 acre pasture. If not, maybe a 3/4 acre pasture, and an 1.25 acres of all those other things. The orchard and the garden I think will be kind of hard to fit in, but basically just want to be self-sufficient, grow my own food, teach my kids to work, things like that. So it's definitely still a goal. The hobby farm is still hopefully going to come in the future, not too far in the future. But I think this is a better piece of property in a lot of different ways. It's about, I don't know, 6-ish minute drive from work. It's slightly out of town. And there's power on it, and it doesn't look like there's much rock right directly underneath of it. It's not super flat. It is kind of a constant uphill, but it's a very, very mild slope. I think it's definitely doable, and I'm just pretty thrilled at the opportunity maybe that will give to us. The other thing I'll add to that is that I would like to maybe purchase about 40 acres, just a little bit further out of town. Doesn't matter if it's off-grid or whatever. And that'll basically just be a grazing pasture that I purchase, which might feed like a cow-calf pair for maybe a month, maybe 2 at best, depending on where I pick it up. So it's going to be kind of rough in that sense, but I'll figure it out. I think the biggest thing is just getting a starting point, a home, a shop, a nice yard, a place for the kids, everything like that. So the hobby farm's not off the list. It's definitely, hopefully going to come in the future, maybe come faster now because we made such a good profit off this property. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. No more 10-acre property, but the hobby farm will still come in the future. I'll let you know as things change, as things move forward and progress. Hopefully I'll actually own a home within the next couple of years, and we'll see where all that goes. So thanks everyone for watching. If you've been curious about what's going on with this, hopefully that answers some questions. Nobody's really asked me. It's the video that I'm giving you that nobody asked for. But anyway, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you in the next video.